morning. This is another great week of Resonate the Sound. This is our very special program. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cornbread Chris Hondigan, and look who I got here with me. She is the Chapel Pastor right here at Resonate. And hey, y'all know Mr. Music here, but guess who I sit under? I sit under the Praise and Worship League. Y'all better resonate the sound for the one and only McKenna. Girl, what's up? How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, girl. I'm so glad you decided to stop by and kick it with us here at Resonate the Sound.
Absolutely.
We want to say a special hello and welcome to each and every one of you watching us, whether it's a simulcast on YouTube or your local locations. We also want to say, hey, if you're joining us at a church right now, the Bible study, hey, thank you for joining us on this very special chapel special episode of Resonate the Sound.
So, Cornbread.
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
What's the point?
Pardon me?
You know, what's the point? What's the point of life, really?
That is a good question. Would that be geared towards tonight or?
Absolutely. If you're kind of confused and you're kind of just like, I don't even really know what the point is of life, we're going to talk about it tonight in the chapel special with my sermon that is titled, What's the Point?
And also, we do want to remind everybody at home that before we leave the air tonight, we have a very, very special performance just for you. And you know, I'm very interested in tonight's broadcast, especially when it comes to what's the point. Isn't it the study of something?
Absolutely. It's going to be taking us all the way through Ecclesiastes, showing us what Solomon went through, and kind of just basically showing what's the point of life and really what's not the point. Basically, we go through things every day, and we're trying to figure out, we're so confused. That's basically what we're going to talk about.
Well, how about we make this challenge to everybody at home?
Absolutely.
If you love taking notes, sit on down, grab yourself a piece of paper, grab yourself a pen. Hey, if you're at a church Bible study, we sincerely thank you for joining us. We indeed pray that you be blessed by tonight's message, tonight's lesson. All deals with what's the point? So here's the question. What's the point? Ken's about to tell you about it. Let's go resonate, shall we?
You know that he's holy in the house tonight. We're getting prepared for what's to come, not what's here now. So don't think we're crazy. We're just spirit-filled and we know what's coming. Amen? All right. The title of my sermon tonight is What's the Point? And have you ever I want y'all to speak back to me tonight. Have any of you ever sat in your room, or you just sat in your car? That's where I like to do a lot of my thinking. Or you just lay in the shower because you're just tired and you're thinking, what is the point? Any of you ever been there? What is the point of this life? What is the point of me being here? What is this life all about? And what in the world am I missing? Any of you ever been there? Speak honestly, because I've been there. Sometimes I think, Lord, what in the world are you doing with me? I sit back and I think, am I missing something? He's like, no, McKenna, I'm preparing you for what's to come. That's right. Anybody I took sports really seriously in high school because I'm very competitive. That's who I am. And after, a softball game or a tennis match, really, I would lose a tennis match. Rarely ever happened. But I would lose a tennis match. And I would sit there on the bench and I would just be so angry and I would think, what is the point? Why am I even playing? What's the point of this? Sometimes we get in our walk with God and we get aggravated because we don't know what in the world's going on because we're not listening to our spirit. We're just sitting here in our flesh and we're missing and we're thinking, what is the point? People all over this earth are trying to ponder the meaning of life. They're trying to figure it all out. What's it about? Is it about a job? What do y'all think? Is it about finding your one true love on this earth? Cornbread's being honest. I want y'all to be honest. It's about getting a promotion. Is it about world peace? Is it about this? Is it about that? We always hear that saying, the grass is greener on the other side. So many of us are searching for happiness, and we're just trying to jump the fence and get to the other side. But we're not willing to stay where we are and let the Lord open our eyes to what's right in front of us. We're obsessed with hopping over the fence. So we change our degrees, we change our majors, we go get a new job, we go try to fix everything on our own because we're obsessed with getting to the other side. Because we think happiness is just over the fence. It's like you're getting in a hamster wheel. You know those hamster wheels? I don't know, hamsters kind of gross me out. Like little rat, tiny things freak me out. But these hamsters, they get in the hamster wheel and they start running and they go super, super fast. And they don't know, that's just what they do. Sometimes that's what we're doing. We're getting on the hamster wheel and we're just going like this and we can't get off. What's the meaning in your life? Anybody have any answers? Cornbread, I know you'll talk back to me. You just trust God? Christian, what's the meaning in your life? It's hard, isn't it? And we think the grass is greener on the other side, but the Lord wants to move right here in your life, right now. You get the corner office. We sit back, we kick our feet up, and we think, man, I've really made it. I've really got all that I'm looking for in this life. We get the ring on our finger, and we think, oh, wow, I've got everything I've ever wanted. Is this really all there is to life? To get the big promotion to be the CEO? To get married? To run around and drive the most fancy car like Christian was talking about the other night? Not if it's not in God's plan for your life. But so many of us try to hop over the fence and go do it anyway when God has already said no. So is that really all there is to life? Possibly the strangest book in the Bible. Have y'all ever read the book of Ecclesiastes? It is. It's pretty interesting. It's written by Solomon, one of the most wisest men to ever walk the earth. He was the king of Israel. Prayed to God. It's in 1 Kings, I believe. He prays to God, and the Lord says, Solomon, whatever you want, I'll give to you. Pastor preached a sermon on that. You know that story? And what does he ask for? Y'all know? He asked for wisdom. Before he asked for riches, before he asked to be, promoted to this and this and this, he asked, God, I just need wisdom. So over in Ecclesiastes, God allows Solomon to have everything that a person might ever want in this life. And I'm going to break this down a little bit. He allows him to have wealth. He allows him to have fame, power over a nation because he was the king. He had all the women. He had all the gold. He had all the glory. Isn't that just about what everybody on this human earth wants in the flesh? But then he goes and he writes Ecclesiastes where he talks about all the meaningless things in this life. I'm laying a foundation here. I'm going to get to it. But yet this book was included in the Bible. God wanted it there because it contains truth, and we can learn a lot from what Solomon has to say. We can benefit from Solomon's wisdom. See, Solomon was smart enough to look around at everybody that was around him and see how they were all in the pursuit of happiness, if you will. This was several thousand years ago when Solomon roamed the earth. But our people today aren't very different than they were 1,000 years ago, believe it or not. So Solomon decides to conduct this massive experiment over human happiness. So he decided, hey, I'm going to be the test subject. He states his goal at the very beginning of Ecclesiastes. He's going to use these crazy resources to achieve happiness the way everybody else around him wants to. Right. Through power, through fame, through pleasure. He talks about all this in Ecclesiastes. Here's the man that has everything that anybody could ever want, including all the wisdom that God gave him. Right. And yet you read the book and you think, what in the world is wrong with this guy? Why isn't he happier? the book tells us about how he constantly crashes and burns no matter what in the world that he does. Yeah. See, the first two verses of the Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanities of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. All of it's worthless. It's meaningless. That's exactly what he's saying. That's the first two verses of this book of the Bible. The Bible that's supposed to uplift us and encourage us. And you're probably thinking, what in the world is this about? Solomon is about to show us that all of these things in life that everybody is longing after is worthless. It's meaningless. That's the high point of the book right there. Verses 1 and verses number 2. The whole book pretty much goes downhill from there if you've read it. Solomon's doubts talk about, number 1, intelligence. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 18. For in as much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. So he's basically saying right here, the smarter you are, the more sad you're going to be. He that increaseth in knowledge increaseth sorrow and pain. Yeah. Number 2, he talks about pleasure. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 10 and 11. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of the spirit. There was no profit under the sun. He said, whatsoever my eyes desired, I kept not from them. Which means he looked at everything that he wanted to look at for pleasure. And what does he say again? It means nothing. Number 3, wisdom. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happeneth to them all. And then said I in my heart, as it happened to the fool, so it happened even to me. And why was I then there more wise? Then I said in my heart that this is also vanity. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the days to come shall be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As the fool. He's telling us again that no matter how smart you are, you're still going to be in a grave next to the dumbest person on this earth. Right. It's meaningless. It's vanity. It doesn't matter. Number 4, work. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, we're going all through Ecclesiastes, y'all. Chapter 2, verse 21 through 23. For there is any man whose labor is in wisdom, and in knowledge, and in equity, yet to a man that hath not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity, and a great evil. For that hath man of all his labor, and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun, for all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not the rest in the night. This is also vanity. Once again, he said no matter how hard you work, it's all pointless. Number 5, power. How many of you love a little power? I was telling my coworkers today at work, they were talking about something, and I was like, I love to do that because it makes me feel like I have power. Because I'm a supervisor at work, I like to, I don't remember what it was about, bossing people around or something. I was like, oh yeah, I love to do that because it makes me feel better than everybody else. I meant it as a joke, but then I stepped back and I thought to myself, you know, that's kind of who I am. And that's not a good thing. Because the power can go to your head. I've also been there. But what started off as a joke, I started to think, am I just after the power? Is that what all this is about? Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. There is no end of all the people. He's talking about surrounding the king. Even of all that have been before him, they also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this is also vanity and vexation of the spirit. Talking about surrounding the king. They're saying that power has nothing to do with anything. All these things that I've listed, there's 3 more. Yeah. All these things that we as humans search after every single day in our lives, Solomon has been through it. He's living through it so he can tell us that it makes no sense to go after these things because it's meaningless. Number 6, righteousness. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse number 14. There is a vanity which is done upon the earth, that there be just men, unto whom it happeneth according to the work of the wicked. Again, there be wicked men, to whom it happeneth according to the work of the righteous. I said that this is also vanity. Number 7 is talent. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to the men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. Education. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 12. And further by these, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. But Solomon sums up all his results. He went through all these different categories. He tested them all out. And at the very end of the book, chapter 12, verse number 13, he says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. He's saying he went through all this. I read all this to you just to tell you this. Just like he went through, he knew this already, but he went through all of this just to be able to tell us. It's not about intelligence. You can have all the intelligence in the world. It's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. You can have all the pleasure in the world, but guess what? It's just going to last a minute. You can have all the wisdom. You can be as smart as you want. You can work as hard as you want. You can have all the power, be above everybody else. You can be part of the righteousness. You can have all the talent. You can get up here and sing better than Celine Dion. You can get up here and you can just do whatever. You can have all the education in the world. But if you're not fearing God and keeping every single one of his commandments, it's vanity. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. He said, I'm wrapping all this up for you. You better just fear God and keep his commandments. Not just the 10 commandments, but every commandment in the book. For this is the whole duty of man. This is exactly what we were created for. Almost like that's the point of life, wouldn't you say? It's safe to say that none of us are ever going to have access to all the wealth and all the power that Solomon had when he was going through all this in an attempt to find his happiness. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. We ain't ever going to be king of nothing. We ain't ever going to be president, probably, to be honest. If the Lord calls you to it, I mean, great, but I highly doubt any of us are going to be the president of the United States. We ain't going to be king of nothing, queen of nothing, because we don't believe that, whatever. But we ain't never going to have the power that this man had. He had everything in the world. He experienced this firsthand. And he said, let me just sum it up for you guys so y'all don't even have to just look, don't look any longer. Just fear God. So at some point, we need to stop going around and around in the hamster wheel and just take an honest look at ourselves and then an honest look at our lives and say, wow, am I searching after those 8 things more than I'm just searching for God? More than I'm just trying to keep the Lord's commandments? If we're not happy with the amount of money that we make now, if we're not happy with the job that we have now, if we're not happy with our GPA now, we're never going to be happy. But let me just say, it's not that those things won't bring temporary happiness, because they will. Money can buy happiness. Christian bought that car he drives around and tells you all the time, that's his baby. When he got it, I remember when he got it, he came running in, he's like, y'all got to check out my new car. And everybody's like, what is this guy doing? But he was happy because he bought him something that was his. Money can buy happiness, just not the kind that's going to last forever. Drugs and alcohol can make people happy, but only for a few hours.
Yeah, come on.
Then what happens? They're left emptier than ever before.
Yeah.
Ironically, the meaning of this life is not found in this life. When Solomon said, fear God and keep his commandments, he was saying that life isn't about being happy. It's about God. And let me just speak from experience here on my part, through my little science experiment. Sometimes serving God is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be worth it. You're going to go through things that someone way over here that's never served God in their life will ever go through. But for you to come in the house of God every service and say, here I am, Lord, take me as I am. I know I've had a rough week, Lord. God, you know, I might have failed a couple times, but here I am. I surrender. That's what makes it all worth it to him. That's the meaning of what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Focusing on God is what brings meaning to our lives. It's all about him. But fearing God does not mean terror, does not mean run away and be scared of him. It means to sit back in total awe of him. Live in a state of awe for the creator of the universe, the one who holds the world in his hands, who holds your world, your life in his hands. But it's interesting. Can you pull that verse back up? The verse, chapter 12, verse 13. Yeah. If you read it, fear God comes first. That's interesting, don't you think? Before it says keep his commandments, you have to fear God first. People who simply just follow a list of laws, a list of rules, a list of commandments, they can't be in awe of God. Because they're bound by the regulation. They're bound by the rules. But if we fear God first, if we sit back in awe of him first, it's not about being bound up by rules. You'll want to do it because this is the whole duty of man. When we consider ourselves followers of Jesus, but yet we sit around and we walk around confused and lost, trying to hop the fence, we've lost sight of the ultimate source of the meaning of life.
That's good. Come on.
When you're in awe of Jesus, it's amazing how easy school can be. When you're in awe of Jesus, it's amazing how easy running a business can be. When you're in awe of Jesus, it's amazing how easy it is to find the love of your life. When you're in awe of Jesus, it's amazing how easy things can get because you're not worried about just keeping his commandments. You're just in total awe of the creator of the universe. Life makes more sense when we don't make it about us. I know I'm saying this, and you're probably thinking, well, yeah, McKenna, I know that. Then why do we always make it about ourselves? We'll sit at home in bed because we're too tired to get up and go to church. Man, I've clocked in 50 hours at work this week. I need a day off, so I'm just going to rest on a Sunday. Wednesday night, man, I got stuff to do. I don't really need to get up and go to church at 6:30. 3 o'clock on a Sunday, that's my nap time. Let's go back to 5 o'clock. We make it about us instead of about him. If we leave ourselves out of it and say, Lord, I'm tired, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for you. That's what it's about. But we get distracted by the little things. We don't understand why things have to be this way. We sit around and we pout, and we just make it about ourselves. Have you ever had just a pity party because you had a bad day? Yeah. I do that a lot. You can ask Tyler and my mother. I just sit down. One bad thing can happen to me, and I'm just ruined for the whole day most of the time. And the Lord's really been working on me the past few days because a lot of times I make things all about me. But it's not about me. What if someone sees me in a bad mood while I'm at work? Someone walks up and isn't she the youth pastor at that church? Why is she walking around with a bad attitude? That doesn't really look like the Lord shining through her to me. We don't think about things like that, though, because we make it about us. We don't make it about him and who sees what we do. We're supposed to be in like image of our Lord. But we're not. If we really want to find what's important, we have to consider eternity, the life beyond this life. It's not about fame. It's not about the money. It's not about having all the education in the world. It's not about friendship. I love my life. I love everything I have in this life. But this life isn't promised forever. This life isn't promised tomorrow. You can take all my stuff. You can take my position. You can take my house. You can take my car. But you can't take Jesus away from me. Right. That's what it's about. Right. You can lose all these things, but he should be as close to you that no one can take him away from you. Yeah. He's eternal. He's the ultimate meaning of this life and the life that's to come. In interior design, there's a concept known as the focal point. Do you know what that is? It's basically like when you walk into the room, and it's the thing that your eyes go to first. It's the biggest and the most eye-catching thing in the room. Sometimes it's the television. Sometimes it's artwork hanging on the wall. Sometimes it's a window. But I got a question. What's the focal point of your life? Is it yourself? Or is it Jesus? I want you to take a minute, and I want you to think about that. And like I said, some of you are probably thinking, well, yeah, we know this already. Then why do we continue to wake up every day and make it about us and not about him? Right. I can assure you, those days when you're sitting down and you're thinking, why am I even here? What is the point? What is all this about? It's because we're not living by His standards, we're living by ours. Because when we live for Him, we won't ever have to question. Because He is the point. What's the point? He's the point. So I challenge you. I want you to sit down and think. Am I living this life for me? Or am I living this life for my God? Because the two don't run hand in hand. The spirit and the flesh, they don't run hand in hand. They're two very different things. What is the focal point of your life? What's the point of your life? I want you to sit there and I want you to think long and hard. And if the answer still, however you add up the equation, the answer still comes out to being you, all you have to do is say, Lord, forgive me. Because He's a loving God. He doesn't want to make it hard. He just wants you to love Him. And we're the ones that make it hard. And then we like to blame Him for it. But really, all we have to do is fear God and keep His commandments. But we like to make it about ourselves, and we like to make it more difficult than it has to be.
You know, honestly speaking, McKenna, and to you watching, you know, I never really thought about a whole lot of points, but this one really kind of encouraged me because you really kind of laid it out cool. And that was two things that ended up being the point, and that was fear God and keep His commandments.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the things that we've always tend to forget, you know, it's important for us to work. It's important for us to go through life. But like you said, you know, and if you want to just elaborate on it, the point of fearing God and keeping His commandments.
I mean, that's basically what life is all about. And sometimes, like you said, work is important. Other things in this life, they are important, but so many times we get so sidetracked on those points that we forget that the ultimate commandment that God even tells about in the Bible is to fear Him and to keep His commandments. And just everything else is going to fall into place once you start with that.
Absolutely. And one thing about fear, it's not fear as in, you know, hey, being afraid.
Yes.
It's much more deeper than that. It's much more of an obedience to Him rather than just, hey, being afraid. It's pretty much a reverence.
Yes,
right?
almost like you're in awe of what God is doing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And excellent message.
Thank you.
Heard you around the house. Thank you so much. And we know coming up later on this year, you'll be back with another good one. But you know, earlier tonight, before we went on the air here at Resonate the Sound, I know you're in charge of our youth and young adults, especially with the dance team. Well, they had a little bit of a practice here. Little did we know that practice ended up turning into a performance. And we had our Resonate cameras going literally before we even came on the air. Yes, our Resonate dance team decided they wanted to do something special right before people started walking in the doors. And courtesy and special thanks to Eddie James, ladies and gentlemen, the Resonate dance team performing Lord You're Holy. We hope you join us right back here next Thursday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time for more Resonate the Sound. Until then, for our senior lead pastors, Brian and Carmen Adams, for our associate pastors, for our Chapel Pastor McKenna, for our entire staff and everyone here at Resonate, I'm Chris Honigan. We do indeed say to you, show love, give peace,
and resonate Jesus.
And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, as we say goodnight, here is the Resonate dance team performing Lord You're Holy. Good night. See you next Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern.
As I look around and I see the awesomeness of you, and how your love will never fade. Mere words cannot express what I feel inside. I can't describe your glory divine, but as a token of my love, this is what I'll do. I lift my hands and cry, Lord, you're holy, Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. Lord, you're holy, oh Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. There's not enough words that I can say to tell you how much I appreciate all of the wonderful things you've given to me. Your love and kindness, your tender mercies. It's my desire to praise you and tell you how much I love you. You're worthy of all the honor, and you're worthy of all the praise.
I don't know how you could love me, why you would give me so much mercy, and how you would suffer and die for me way back on Calvary. But I thank you, I thank you.